Many thanks, Roger. Yes, and good evening and welcome everybody for this Hatters Heritage event. I'd like to introduce, although needs very little introduction, the two gentlemen to my right. First of all, John Sheridan, born in Scotland but moved to Luton as a small boy. Played football locally, but I believe broke your leg in 4 places after falling off a moving bus. Decided to concentrate on sports injuries after that, and worked his way up through local circles, and was eventually recommended by the Beds FA to David Pleat, who was looking for a new physio following the departure of Roy Johnson back in 1978. We'll hear more from John regarding some of the players that he's looked after during his career as well later. And then of course Kirk Stephens. Kirk was rejected by Coventry as a youth player after 4 years there. Went to Nuneaton where David Pleat became manager. And David had said that if he ever became manager of a league side, he would return for Kirk, which he did in 1978. Kirk went on to make 248 appearances for Luton and scored 2 goals, one of which I'm sure we'll hear about later. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome both John Sheridan and Kirk Stephens. So for those that are new to these evenings, what we'll do is I'll ask a few questions to get things going with both John and Kirk, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So if you'd just like to acknowledge, nod your head, put your hand up, or show some willingness to ask questions during the evening, then we'll throw it open to the floor as well. But we thank them both for their time for coming to us this evening. And I think John will start with yourself, just your memories of starting here at Luton Town Football Club.
Yes.
Yeah, if you like, sit down.
Yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, what was your most unusual injury you ever seen? Well, when I was young, we had a goalkeeper that used to, before the game, he'd run over, kick one post, kick the other. This particular day, he'd done it, and the crossbar fell on his head. So I treated him for concussion. Another one really, I was reading this magazine and it said, this is what you do if a player gets the ball in the unmentionables. You have a little hot water flask and you put it on the sponge and you put it on the affected area. So diligently I filled this flask up with water, hot water. Unfortunately, this player went down after about a minute. I ran on the field, little flask, on the sponge, and he jumped up like a scalded rabbit.
Wasn't me.
He was, but I did improve his sprint speed. Yeah. Well, I was invited to come to Luton by David Pleat a long while ago, and it was a difficult decision for me, really, because having a limp, I didn't really know how I would cope with running on the field. It's all right running on the field with 100 people watching you, but a lot of people, how am I going to react? And I think, I don't know. So I said to David, look, I'll do the reserves for you. So I said, get someone else. And he said, well, you will qualify to do it. I said, David, I don't know how I'm going to react. So I said, look, you've got a few people to interview, so carry on, do that, and give me a shout when you want me to do the reserves. I got home, the phone rang, I want you. That's good, do you remember? I want you. But luckily enough, it was a great decision for me, and the lads at Luton were brilliant. It was a time in sports medicine where we were changing from the old sponge man with the old cap, the black cap, and the fag in his mouth, and the sponge, and it was a great period of sports medicine where techniques were changing, and it was brilliant, and it was something that I really enjoyed. Luckily enough, the first 7 games I never went on the field. And the first time, I remember down here at Kenilworth Road, Pleat had to leave me out. I was white as a sheet. I was absolutely. But then, as my career, progressed, got a lot easier. But I still got a lot of stick with the lead. So it was good. Yeah. As I was saying, the time when I came to Luton, sports medicine was evolving. We were coming from the old bucket and sponge. We were coming to more medical techniques that changed, that were changing, and it was brilliant. But I had a couple of players early doors that presented problems to me. One of the lads had broken his leg. I was only here a week and he re-broke it. So that was quite a challenge. But one of the biggest challenges was we had a player, he'd been in and out, one of our great wingers. I won't mention his name, but he'd had a groin injury for a year, and he kept breaking down, and I took him all over the place and to try and see what no one really knew. All the consultants, they rest, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So in the end, I'm reading the Shoot magazine. I'm looking at the Shoot magazine, and I read about this big centre forward that plays for Birmingham. I'm sure you know who it was. That he'd had this injury, and he'd had this miracle cure by this consultant up in Birmingham. So I phoned the Birmingham physio. I said, what was wrong with the player? He said he had a tear in external oblique aponeurosis. I thought, where's that in the charts? So anyway, off I went up to the Parkway Hospital, Birmingham, and this Greek surgeon, polyzoidist, who was more famous for doing the knee replacements, and he looked at him and he said, I know the problem. I always made it a fact that I always went in the operating theatre with the players, right through all my career, to see what was being done. And he operated on him, and I went in the theatre, and he said, there's a problem. And I remember the player coming out of the anaesthetic, and he just couldn't believe it, that someone had actually sorted him out. And he went on, and he scored a lot of goals for Luton, and was one of the legends really of Luton Town. Great lad. Kirk, do you want to look up? Do you want to carry on, Peter?
No, that's great.
Yeah, go.
That's a great job. Thanks for the start. I know there's several more stories to come during the course of the evening. We'll go over to Kirk then. And Kirk, as we said, you joined in 1978 from non-league Nuneaton to the Football League. Just talk to us about that move and coming to Luton Town and how you settled in.
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's a fantastic time of my life, and I'm not telling you because I'm still here now, but probably the most 6 or 7 best years of my life were spent at Luton Town Football Club. And it all started with a phone call from David Pleat when I've come home from tarmacking all day. My wife said, there's been a call for you, Kirk. The fella's put the phone down, he wouldn't tell me who it was, but he'll phone back later. So later on, about 6:30 at night, I'm having my tea, phone goes. I said, hello? He said, is that Kirk? I said, yes. He said, hi Kirk, it's David. I said, David? He said, yeah, David Pleat. I've known from David Pleat for 6 years when he signed me for Nuneaton Borough. So he said, what are you enjoying your football? I said, yes, I am, Dave. He said, 23 years old now? I said, yes, Dave. He said, what's your ambition to get to the Football League? I said, the same as when you met me 6 years ago. He said, well, I'd like to bring you to Luton Town Football Club. And I said, I'd love to come to Luton Town Football Club. He said, well, what you're going to have to do is just react to anything you read in the paper. So when they say managers don't go around the back doors, you can't repeat this to anybody. Well, I got a little tap off David to react to what I read in the papers the following day. That Nuneaton Borough turned down a £5,000 bid from Luton Town Football Club. This was at 6 o'clock at night, so I phoned the chairman up of Nuneaton, said, listen, Noel, Luton bid for me, I'd like to go. And he said, we don't want you to go. I said, but I want to go. I'm 23 years old. I will not get the chance again to go to the Football League. You can't deny me that. I'll give you 6 great years of service and I'm going to go to join Luton. He said, well, you're not going. So I put the phone down, I sat there, talked to my wife and mulled it over, and I thought, by now, by the way, I've started my own business. I've got a successful construction company, doing really well with all the family. But I wanted to play football, and I wanted to play football for David Pleat. And I mulled it over. I phoned the chairman back up at 9:30 that night. I said, no, I really want to go to Luton Town Football Club. Please let me go. He said, you're not going. And I said, well, let me tell you this. If you don't sell me to Luton Town Football Club, I'll never ever play for Nuneaton Borough again. It's a real hard time for me because I love the club as I love Luton. And I said, I won't play for you. I'm finished. And he said, you want to go that badly? I said, yes, I do. If you don't let me go. Anyway, I was sold at 11:30 on that night to Luton Town Football Club. I didn't like the way it went, we had to go about it. I hated it, but it was the best thing I've ever done in my life because I had 6 fantastic years at this football club. And I could stand here all night and tell you stories that we created, the memories we created during them 6 years.
We got tigers.
But I'll just jump one or two whilst I'm up, if you don't mind, Simon. I mean, obviously, with John sitting next to me, one of my funny memories of John was that, of course, in the summer when we finished, we had 8 weeks off in our time. All the lads had the 2 weeks off in Barbados, Spain, wherever, Portugal. But I'd have a week away with my family, and then I'd go tarmacking through the summer. And just before we due back, I'd get myself fit, and it was fantastic. Well, anyway, we come back, and we've been playing for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we're due to play West Brom away on Saturday. But during that week, I had the Wednesday off, and I went out, the lads, and they were knocking the building down, and I'm up a ladder, knocking this building down. I'm a professional footballer, knocking the building down with a hammer. Anyway, I fell off the ladder. And I fell about 20 foot onto all this brick hardcore, and my ankles ballooned up like mad. So I'm in big trouble with the gaffer. He is going to go bloody crazy when I did. So I hobbled into the treatment room on the following morning, on the Thursday morning, and I said to John, my ankle's killing me. He said, what you done? I said, well, I was changing my wheel on my car and I was kicking the brakes. And he said, get on here. So he got me left ankle and he's treating it away. We'll give it ice, ultrasonic. And he was treating me, and we were there all day. I couldn't train because it was like this. Anyway, we went again on the Friday morning, and my left ankle was, to be fair, John, you did a great job on it. It was almost there. Anyway, on the Friday afternoon, I'm back in for treatment. Well, my right ankle, which was as bad, has no treatment. So I swapped legs over, and I put my right leg on the treatment table, and he's come and treated me, and he's treating it away. He said, he's got no better, Kirk, has it? And it's still hurting me, John. Anyway, yeah, fair play to him. John got me fit. He didn't realise that I'd done with both ankles, and we took the piss out of something chronic. But John, I do apologise for taking it out of you there. So, yeah, fantastic times for me at Luton Town Football Club. You know, there's many happy memories. there's probably one or two questions people want to talk to me about, and obviously the Manchester City things, Liverpool in goal, all these memories that were great for us. Winning the championship, well, how fantastic was that for us? But whenever I come down to Luton, as a lot of you know, well, you know that I spend quite as much time as I can down here. The only thing ever people want to talk to me about is Watford. And we all know the Watford story, don't we? We played down at Watford, and I scored the winning goal, and I'm a hero, and everybody loves me for the next sort of 35 years. I'm asked the question, Kirk, Watford, what about Watford? And I said, you remember, guys, it's 35 years ago, isn't it? Is it 35 years ago? Something like that? You tell me, John. 30 odd years ago now. And so your memory fades a little bit, doesn't it? But I do vaguely remember, when it's a Boxing Day. Martin, was it a Boxing Day? Yeah? 79 was it? 1979. Was it a 12 o'clock kick-off? We had an early kick-off, I believe, that day. And we had Alan and John there, and I think, bless him, Eric Morecambe was there, the chairman, respective chairmans. And I remember, I scored in the 80th minute, and they said, well, what about it, Kirk? I said, well, I don't remember. But what I do remember is that Jake Finney got the ball, he rolled it out to Mark Hazelwood, who played a little 1-2 with Paddy Greenish. Paddy Greenish fed a fantastic ball into Ricky Hill. Ricky Hill found Brian Steele, who popped it off to Ricky Hill again, who's then fed David Moss out wide. Mossy has cut inside brilliantly. Bob Hatton has gone down the left wing, he's fed him down the left wing. In the meantime, I'm steaming up the pitch, and in the 89th minute, Bob Hatton crosses the ball to the far post, and I go in and I score the winning goal against Watford. And for that I am remembered. But I don't remember too much about it, other than all the details. But a great time in my life, that was.
Wonderful, Kirk, thank you. The goal on Boxing Day certainly will be remembered for. You made your debut back in August 78. Memories of that game against Oldham, a 6-1 victory to start your Luton Town career?
Yeah, it's fantastic. David Pleat had about 6 or 7 new signings, and Steve Sherlock, Bob Hatton, Mark Hazelwood, myself, David Moss, to name a few. So, Dave Pleat put the seeds in for the future of the club then, for me. We can see it now, and just like what's happening now with the football club. The seeds have all been sown, and like him or not, Nathan Jones put the seeds in there, now they've been carried forward, and hopefully the club will have the success that we have. And it was fantastic. We've gone out there, we're not wanting down at half time, and we've come back and won 6-1. Great memory, great times, and we just managed to survive that season. But thankfully for the board of directors, they stayed with David Pleat, and over the next 2 or 3 years, then we built till eventually we got that, what we all wanted with promotion to the what is now the Premiership.
Lovely. As Kirk's on his feet, then if there's any questions from the floor, anybody like to ask Kirk something? Well, we've got the opportunity. Yeah, jump right in front of him.
You were obviously affectionately known as Basher. When did that occur, and why?
Well, there's two or three stories that go about that. I probably wasn't the most sort of graceful person on the football pitch, and if I was going to be marking you, I'd have probably had a word in your ear in the tunnel and said, you're going to have it. If I can just touch on that very slightly. So we'll come back to that again in a minute, but we're in the tunnel and we're playing Watford at home, and in the tunnel we stand there all waiting to go out, and next to me is John Barnes, 17-year-old black lad making his sort of 3rd or 4th appearance for Watford, and I've looked at him and he's looked at me and he's gone, "Hi Basher." I said, "All right, Barnesy." And he said, "Yes, thanks." I said, "Excuse my language, you're having it for today, son, you're having it today." And he's looked at me and said, "Oh, shit." The first ball that comes out to him, I'm right up his arse. Because I was a little bit aggressive in that man. I didn't want to hurt him, but anyway, I had great periods against John Barnes. We're going out to Watford, "Barnesy, you're having it today, son." And anyway, this is how it went for about 3 years, till eventually we stood in the tunnel at Watford, and he looked at me and said, "Right, Basher." I said, yeah. He said, you're having it today, son. And he did. But yeah, Basher came from one or two reasons. I was robust in everything I'd done, whether it was playing football or playing snooker. And Brian Steen, who I used to play snooker with regularly, he said, why do you bash everything? I said, because I have to bash everything, because that's my game. I leave the silky stuff for you and Ricky Hill. And he gave me the name of Basher, and it stuck from there to there. For the first we lived down in Amptill. The first 4 years of my kid's life, whenever we walked around the Arndale road, the kids thought my name was Basher. Nobody ever called me Kirk.
What club used to play snooker?
Sorry?
What club used to play snooker now? Can't believe that.
The Embassy Club. Remember the Embassy Club there?
Where was that?
In Luton.
Okay.
Yeah, just around the back of Bury Park. Yeah, the Embassy Club. Straight from training.
And the last question, what's the sponsor on your football t-shirt then, days?
I don't know if it's Bedford Trucks, Trimoco, Tricentral, yeah, the 3 or 4, yeah. What we could everybody considers were, the great, there were real nice shirts in them days. So anyway. Yes, John.
Okay, Kirk, welcome, mate. You've done a great description of that fantastic goal you got for us at Watford.
No, I didn't. I've sold it short. It was better than that.
Well, I was there. I was going great to be on the goal. Can you give us a description of your second goal you got at Bolton?
Yeah, that was pretty. Let me just finish on that Watford goal first. I really didn't finish on that. So I've come in at the far post. I've knocked the ball in the back of the net, and I've realised I've scored the winning goal. But I'm in strange country now, strange territory. I've not scored before, and I don't know how to celebrate. All the Luton fans were up their end, if you can remember. It was all on terrace then, all standing. And I just didn't know how to celebrate. So I looked for my dad in the stand, and I'm going to my dad. But that was a great goal. But I don't know if you remember the following year, there was a real battle at the top of the league. And it come down right to the final game of the season. We had to win by 3 goals to get promotion, and Swansea had to lose. And we didn't know how Swansea were going on, but we were winning 2-0. And I really can't describe the goal at Bolton because it was nowhere near as good as the one at Watford. but I smashed one in from the edge of the box, and we actually won the game 3-0. And then we're all waiting for the Swansea result, but I think they won 2-0 or something like that, and they got promotion and we didn't. But again, that might have been the catalyst for us to come to the great things that we went to.
Yeah, we lost a certain game against Oldham as well.
Yeah, the Oldham game, yeah.
Who, in your opinion, is the best player you played with at Luton? Who's the best player you've come up against?
I've played with some fantastic players at Luton, and you can open the floor to this, and everybody would say there'd be 6 players that would be up there amongst them. You know, your Paul Walshes, your Brian Steens, your Ricky Hills, and Mel Donaghy for different reasons. You know, there's some fun. Jake Finley, got to be the best uncapped Scottish goalkeeper ever. Like, he was brilliant. But I'm sure you probably, most of you will agree, Ricky Hill was unbelievable. He made me look a much better player than I was. Because when I was in trouble, I just used to hear he sorted out for me, son, and he was brilliant. Ricky Hill was unbelievable. So, but you know, Paul Walsh was, Brian Steen, you know, Steen, goal scorer. David Moss, have we seen a better winger? You know, David Moss, 2-footed. So, you know, you could go through the whole squad at that time. But if you had to pin me down, I'd probably say Ricky Hill. Probably one of the best players I've ever played with. I played with Cyril Regis and Stuart Pearce and Dave Bennett at Coventry. But you know, Ricky Hill like shone like that midnight star. But the ones I played against, Glenn Hoddle as an English player was unbelievable. He was a fantastic footballer. Before his years, he would have played in today's game and he'd been majestic. But he was great. But I did play against some great players there, and I remember when we played at Aston Villa. Pleaty never talked about the opposition before a game. Never ever talked about the opposition. We'd say, right, we're going to get the ball, Finlay, get the ball, get it out to, this is how Pleaty used to talk, you get out to Edgewood's feet, Edgewood, get into Horton, get up to Moss or Steen, right, and Kirk, I want you going on the outside. And it was always Kirk, because it was like, I was Pleaty's boy, and so we wound up. So we never talked about the opposition. So anyway, 2 occasions, we're just about to go out against Aston Villa. They've just won the European Cup, Champions League and everything. So he said, Kirk, Tony Morley, just won his England cap, European Cup winner. I said, he's right on top of his game. He delivers everything for Gary Shaw up front, Peter With. So let's cut that out, can we, early doors. And Pleaty wasn't a kicker. He didn't advocate to go and whack anybody, but what he said to me was, let him know you're about early doors. I said, leave it with me, boss. 3 minutes into the game, Gordon Cowan's got a ball on the corner box. This is at Villa Park. Gordon Cowan's on the right-hand side of the box, and I could see him, I'm covering round at the time, I could see him looking for Tony Morley, who's dropped off wide, who's just in front of the dugout. And I could see him looking, I'm thinking, I'm reading this. So I seen him ping the ball, and Cowan's had pinged this ball, a fantastic pass, and it's going out to Morley, who's on the left wing, and he's going to catch it on his chest. He's got to catch it on his chest. So when he catches it, and it drops to his feet, I'm going to time it absolutely. He is going 7 rows back, and the ball's going, and I have timed it absolutely perfect. As it's dropped, I've gone sliding, well, I don't know what happened, but I fucking crashed into the dugout, broke my little finger, he went down the line, crossed it to Gary Shaw, bang, we were down 1-0 down, and I'm sitting in the dugout with David Pleat. I mistimed it slightly, and Pleat is sitting there saying, what are you doing in here, Kirk? Nursing a broken finger, boss. So there was Tony Morley, that was a good winger, and then there was another one, Willie Johnson, West Bromwich Albion. We're just about, again, we're going out onto the park, and Pleat turned around to me and said, Kirk, he said, Willie Johnson, if you give him space, he'll run at you. He'll go inside, he'll go outside. If you get too tight, he'll pop the ball off and spin you. He said, you know what to do with him? I said, I ain't got a clue, boss. He said, neither have I, son, good luck. and he murdered me. I had a horrendous game. So, yeah, he was brilliant. There's so many good players that were about at the time. But they were great times, great times.
Lovely, thanks, Kirk. I think we'll let Kirk have a breather for a
The interesting story about Aston Villa was we stopped at the services to get our pre-match meal. We come out to the coach. It was an evening there, do you remember, Kirk? And the coach wouldn't start. So Pleat said, what are we going to do? So I said, well, it was a Trust House 40. Do you remember the Trust House 40? Well, there was this minivan. So he said, can we get all the players in the minivan? I said, yeah. He said, well, you drive, and we get taxis and we bring the kit up. So all the lads are we're going up the M6. So all the lads are in the back. I'm driving the minibus. Luton supporters are going back. They're doing a double take. We get to Villa Park. Get to the gate, and the bloke said, who are you? I said, Luton Town. He said, Luton Town? I said, things are bad. Things are bad.
That's good. Kirk's obviously had the opportunity already to give a story about yourself. Have you got one to get back to Kirk with?
I don't repeat it. Kirk, no, I mean, the lads at Luton, at that period of time, I know when I came, they were brilliant. They protect you. It was a family. It's like Luton Town now, and yeah, they were brilliant. We had so many funny stories, really, didn't we? The lads were brilliant. They still are now. You know, when you meet them, they haven't changed. They're brilliant. Yeah, it was a great time. For me, I learned a tremendous amount at Luton. Make no mistake, at that period of time, late 70s, early 80s, Luton was up there with the medical side. The Bobbers Club used to collect money for us. We made sure, I think we were one of the first clubs in the country, if not the first, to do a warm-up on the pitch. Kirk, was that right?
Probably.
Yeah, we were the first, one of the first. We were there, you know, at the cutting edge of medicine when the keyhole surgery, the arthroscopy came in. I think we done the rehab on the second player ever to have a anterior cruciate reconstruction, which now is a matter of course, and that was on Rob Johnson. And I remember going to watch this technique, you know, and David Dandy over at Cambridge, who was a brilliant surgeon. We'd actually built up this network of great consultants, and we're in Luton Town, but we were there, and it was absolutely superb. We built these surgeons around us. We had a great club doctor, Doc Berry, who was a funny man. He had his glasses on his head, and then he'd say, "John, wear my glasses." And we had Doc Dealey, who's the club doctor now at Luton Town. He was with me as a student. He was on his part of his medical elective, learning sports medicine, and it was brilliant. So we had a great time, really, and a successful time. And them lads, really, I mean, I've done over 1,000 league games, and I think them players, to me, is there any questions?
You were Sheridan.
John?
Talked about changing techniques in treatment.
Well, I think the major change was the arthroscopy,
Yeah.
which the arthroscopy came over from Canada. A fellow called Jackson, who was a Canadian orthopedic surgeon, and he used to use the arthroscope, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's in the early days they used to put a little, like a pea shooter in the knee, and he'd be looking through it, and then he'd be trying to operate through the other bit. But now, I mean, you've got a big television screen. But the arthroscopy really was one of the major breakthroughs, really. But remember, even like a cartilage in them days, if you had a cartilage tear, they would just open you up and pull it out, because they didn't really understand what the cartilage done in the knee. What was its function? Well, it's there, it's a buffer, but it isn't. It's to spread the fluid, to feed the knee joint. But surgeons were pulling it out. And I always made sure that I went into the operating theatre to watch the operations, because then I understood the rehab. And also, it was great that I could explain to the player. So if a player had a problem, and he, that hurts a little bit there, John, I've already seen inside his knee or his thigh. And, you know, it gave me a head start, I think.
I'm interested in the decisions that a physio has to make on and off the pitch. Are you able to get to a decision time when you think that that's the problem, or that's the problem, and this has got to happen, and that's got to happen?
They're difficult.
How long do you have to make those decisions?
Very difficult sometimes, because you've got the referee, and you've got the crowd baying at you, and you've got the referee that is going to, he's trying to get you off the field. I remember, was it Stoke City, the goalkeeper got Jake Finley, I think he broke his thumb, do you remember? Jake. And he got whacked on the head as well. No, he got hit on the head. And I'm trying to put my fingers up, how many's there, and the referee said, "You're inside the ground, you can do the V-sign." Yeah, the V-sign. I said, "No, that's the V-sign, not that."
I understand that the pressure from the ref, you're concerned about the player, obviously, primarily.
Absolutely.
I'm just interested in what point you think he's got to go off, what point he's got to go to treatment at the club, what point he's got to go to hospital.
How long do you have to make those decisions?
Well, I was always a player's physio. I never a manager's physio. I never got players fined because me and the player would sort it out between us. But sometimes you'd have an injury where, I remember one I had at Tottenham, Danny Thomas, that was took out. He had an absolutely horrific injury. And it took me 7 minutes to actually get onto the stretcher. Because and they said afterwards, if we hadn't took the care, one of the nerves was just like a bow string. And if I'd have moved him wrongly, it would have snapped, and he actually would have been paralysed from me down. It was always difficult sometimes, especially with head injuries. Head injuries were quite a nightmare, but you never took any chances.
At that point, you were in charge of the decisions.
Completely, but you've got this guy in black doing that area, and you've got the players. But at Luton, what we used to do, I don't remember Kirk, but we had, I had 4 or 5 players that I taught first aid. So if we had an injury, a major injury on the field, these players would come and help me. Do you remember that? So we'd have players that knew how the recovery position, how to put a player on the stretcher. Yeah, it was, you know, yeah, it was good. Yeah. John?
Yeah, I've got a question here regarding 2 players that I grew up watching, Steve Foster and Nick Harford. With regards to Steve Foster, what was underneath that headband in terms of the injury?
Steve, well, we signed Steve Foster from Aston Villa, from the reserves. What Pleat used to do, he used to say to me, John, I'm thinking of getting this player. He's been injured. Try and find out if he can get him fit. See what's wrong with him. And Steve had been out for a while with a thigh strain. But I think Steve he wanted to play for Luton, didn't want to play for Villa. But under his headband, he just had scar tissue where he'd been hit repeatedly over the years, because he was a hard man, wasn't he, Steve? Great player, one of the great players.
Yeah, and the other one was, speaking of hard players, obviously Nick himself, Nick Harford. I'm always led to believe that the scar that he's got on the top of his mouth was due to a cyanidized elbow that required 30 to 35 stitches. And I wondered if you know anything about that at all, or was it his time in Birmingham City before he joined Luton?
Well, Nick was just a great, hard player, wasn't he? One of the best players, one of the best forwards I think I ever worked with. Great player. What would he be worth nowadays? And a great man as well. And it's, I think we had joy to see him do so well at Luton. Absolutely superb. And he's got to get a manager of the month, hasn't he? I hope so, anyway. Absolutely. Great man.
Okay. Yeah, obviously obviously the famous recovery of the player has obviously been the one that made the papers with Paul Gascoigne injury. That was in the Spurs Forest match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In 75. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of that and the difficulty you had? Was it one? Would you say it's one of your most difficult sort of to?
It was very hard. It was very hard for me because, make no mistake, I went to Tottenham. I love Luton. It was one of the most difficult decisions you made. But you do it for your family, to better yourself, not football-wise, but monetary wise, really, because when you've got a young family, but it was a difficult one because Gazza was a high-profile player. I went to Tottenham. I could have never done Tottenham if I hadn't been at Luton, because at Luton I was slowly got into it, and I loved the club. So I was here 7 years, then went to Tottenham to see if I could, all internationals, Hoddle, Waddle, all these boys. We signed Gascoigne, who was larger than life, a nice guy, lovely guy, very or full of it.
Yeah, no.
But his injury, when he got injured, he was in the middle of a transfer to Lazio, £5.5 million. Tottenham needed that money. They were desperate for this money. And so suddenly I found the pressure really on me to try and get this guy fit with a terrible injury. I mean, it was my anniversary on the Sunday. I was in the operating theatre with him.
Incredible.
Tottenham had won the cup. They were all parading around London with the cup. I was on my own in Princess Grace Hospital with him, and I phoned Tottenham to say we need a spokesman, because all the press are outside. Hundreds of them, cameras, everything. And I thought, what's going on? But so I phoned Tottenham. No one there. Phone keeps ringing. Around London. So I'm on the jack. So I had to go out, Princess Grace Hospital, and deliver a statement. Because the boss of the hospital told me, John, you've got to go out, because of other patients. So I stand there on the steps, and it was on the 9 o'clock news. I don't know if you ever remember. I was on the 9 o'clock news, the headlines, standing there with this bit of paper, giving all this, petrified. Then I thought, I've had enough of this. I've sent my wife home, the anniversary, and I'm trying to run down the road, and I'm not too quick on my pegs. And they're running after me. I said, lads, give me a chance, give me a... So, but it was quite a hard year, really, because at that time you had John Solarco that had been to America, and he'd had this reconstruction using a dead man's tendon or ligament. And it was the Sun, I think the Sun newspaper was sort of plotting Gazza's rehab against Solarco. Now Solarco had a minor injury compared to Paul Gascoigne, because he'd done his anterior cruciate, his medial ligament, his cartilage, and it was, you know, but he worked hard, and we got him nearly fit. And because Lazio had said, look, John, we want you to do the rehab. Whatever, he can't go anywhere without you. We trust you to do the rehab. And then one Sunday morning, I'd come up to Tottenham to do the treatment, and my wife comes, Gazza is at the front door. He's coming for a cup of tea. He's got his hospital gown on. What's happened? So I said, Jimmy Five-Brothers will drive him up to the training ground. And he comes up, and I get him on the bench, and I find his kneecap is in 2 bits. Oh, I think, what have I let myself in for? They operated on him, and so the rehab, you know, was very, very hard. It was hard. It took me over a year. No one wanted to know, because no one thought that he would ever play again. He was that bad, and I was getting cranked letters. I remember one letter I got was from a farmer, and this farmer sent me this letter. Dear Mr. Sheridan, I've got a new, and Terry Venables was one of them blokes. You better phone him back. I've got a compress that will help Paul Gascoigne's knee. So I phoned this farmer up. I didn't know he was a farmer down in Devon. I said, you've got something that's going to help Paul Gascoigne? He said, yeah. He said, I've got a poultice. It's made of a special herbs from the field and cow shit. I said, you're joking. I said, do you imagine the son getting hold of that? Physio treats him with cow shit. But that is a true story. And we carried on, and once they seen him running, he started to run, and people thought he might play again. And Lazio had complete faith in me to get him fit. And I remember we went to Rome, to Lazio, to the training ground, and he'd done this fitness test. They sent this Mr. Jim Andrews, who was top knee surgeon in the world, to do the fitness test. And I remember walking around Rome the night before this fitness test, and not knowing what's going to happen. My career's on the line, or he's going to play again. I don't know how it's going to go. And I get a phone call, and this guy said, Mr. Jim Andrews has phoned in early. He wants to see Paul Gascoigne tonight at the clinic with the full protocol, all your treatment, the whole lot. So Spurs lawyers said, you'll wait. I said, no, he's not waiting. I'm going to take him. Oh, we got nothing to hide. So we went to the Olympic Stadium and the clinic, and he'd done an examination. He never said a word. But that night we went out to a fish restaurant in Rome, and we just having a meal. It was Gazza's dad, myself, 5 bellies, and Gazza. I said, and who walked in? All the Lazio, the manager, the chairman, the surgeon. So I said to Gazza, I said, look mate, we have got to go. Eat your dinner, and as we go, you say, good night gentlemen, I'll see you in the morning. He said, are you taking the piss? I said, no, this is what we got to do. And that's what we done. We walked out, and the next day, this surgeon run him ragged. He absolutely run him ragged. And we got all the English press, all trying to take photos, everything. But make no mistake, I was still living in Luton, and I would often have a son photographer when I was treating Paul Gascoigne in the garden, over the, they'd be looking over. I couldn't go anywhere.
That's a big story, isn't it?
It's a massive story. But luckily enough, he passed his fitness test, and in the evening, the Lazio chairman, their manager name was Dino Zoff. So he came up to me and he said, we would like you to stay in Lazio as our physio. We want you to be our consultant physio. Doriani, who was...
A break shortly so that you can refill your glasses, but as soon as John started talking about Steve Foster's headband there, Kirk looked at me, nudged me and said, you've got to ask me a question about Fozzie's headband. Over to you, Kirk.
I'm sure you'll all remember, my best friend in the world was a lad called Tony Grealish, who Paddy to all of us here. Anyway, Paddy went in exchange for Brian Orton, which at the end of the day was a fantastic move for both players. You know, Brian's probably the best keeper I've ever played under, and Paddy had a great move to Brighton. So I don't remember, Brighton played Manchester United in the FA Cup final. Well, Steve Foster was suspended for the final, which was at Wembley. I don't know if you can remember, but if you look in the archives, you put the pictures, get the game up on TV, you will see Tony Grealish walking out at Wembley with a headband on. Now the story is, this is a true story, because Paddy told me, and he was my best mate, and he said, we stood in the change room, actually said we stood in the change room, we're ready to go out at Wembley. The bell's gone, the linesmen are out there, the referees are out there, Manchester United in the hall waiting for us to go out, and Fozzie comes up to me and says, Paddy, he said, I want you to do me a favour. He said, what's that, Fozzie? He said, I want you to wear my headband. And Paddy, sorry, I won't use the headband, but he said, I ain't wearing it yet. I'm right. He said, please wear it for me. He said, why? He said, well, listen, it's got that little tick on it. Nike. I said, so what are you getting it from then, Fozzie? What are you getting out of that? He said, well, listen, obviously they're looking after me, and I'll look after you. So by now the bell's gone again, and they're all out there waiting. And Paddy and Fozzie are in the change room arguing, discussing a contract to wear this headband. And he said, well, look, no, I'm not wearing it, Fozzie. And he says, well, you 200 quid? No, I ain't wearing it for 200 quid, 300. Anyway, and the bell's going again, and the players are still... Anyway, if you watch the game, Paddy and Fozzie, I mean, it was all a joke and a laugh. He actually wore this headband out in memory of Steve Foster not playing the game, and we all went there, they drew the game, and Fozzie was in the replay, which Man United won. So that was one little memory I remember because of that there. If you don't mind me, I'm going off at tangents here, like, because they keep coming back to me with little memories. It's not a good memory, but it's a memory that I'll remember for different reasons. Because when we were at Luton, I mean, there was no racism at Luton with those lads. You know, when we go in train, we didn't need bibs. It was your mob against our mob. Like Ricky Hill, Brian Steen, Godfrey Ingram, Mitchell Thomas. They're all that. So that's how it was at the football. It's fantastic. But we looked after each other. And on the pitch, it was known that Brian Orton could look after himself, and you know, and I'd look after myself and anybody else. So we've got young Mitchell Thomas playing left back against Watford. It's Mitchell's second game of the season. I'm not proud of this, so I'm not telling the story because I'm proud of it, because I'm telling you this is what went on at the time. We're playing Watford at home, and young Mitchell Thomas is at left back, and all of a sudden the ball's gone over to him, over by the bobbers, just in front of the Oak Road. I can picture it like, it's 35 years ago, but it's like yesterday. I can remember this more than my goal. Anyway, Mitchell's got the ball on his left peg, and he's gone to clear it, and there's a lad called Mo Johnson used to play for Watford, and Mo Johnson has dived in at him, and Mo is an experienced player, and he's timed it perfectly. Just as Mitchell clears the ball, he's gone in and studied him, put his studs across his foot. So Mitchell's gone down screaming as I've gone walking over, as I've gone running over, screaming, he's hurt. And as he went down, as he's turned round, I'm not proud of this, I've just gone, whoa! And I've hit him that hard, I've knocked him spark out. Absolutely gone spark out. But the ball has gone up the field by now, and the lines's gone up the field, the referee's gone up the field, everybody's gone up the field looking at that, not me and Mo Johnson. Apart from the 2000 in the Oak Road, I've seen it all. Of course, there's only one bash, just a basher, and I'm going to shut up, shut up. Nobody's seen it. Referee hasn't booked me, nothing's happened. Mo Johnson sparked out. In the end, the physio comes on, they give him the salts and everything. Wally Downs was Wally Downs' family was the physio for that at the time. He's come running on, and they're a boxing family. And all I remember him saying, oh, Stephens, we'll see you. I said, you'll get what he got if you want. And this is going on the pitch. But the referee hasn't seen it. The linesman hasn't seen it. Nobody has seen it apart from the 2,000 people behind there and David Pleat in the room. So we've come off at half-time. We've gone in the changing rooms, like Mitchell's recovered, like, and everything. And I'm sitting there. Gone somber, the room went deadly quiet, and Pleaty's walked in. Nothing was said, and all of a sudden he's walked over to me, finger in my face. He said, you will never ever play for this football club again if I ever see that again. And I said, I tell you what, I took my boots off, chucked them up the wall. I said, I don't want to play in football again. If you don't appreciate what he's done, what's happened to him, what I've done, I said, stuff your football club, stuff this game, you can stuff it, I ain't going back out there. And he said, and of course he's going back then, you get your kit on. I said, no, I got undressed. I went and stood in the shower, I was about to have a shower. Brian Orton's coming, he said, Bash, come on, the lads want you out there, we need you out there. I said, no, stuff him. I said, okay, I was out of order, I shouldn't have done that, but he shouldn't be ripping me to bits. I said, Mitchell Thomas, and I went down there, the bloke done him, I didn't say them words at the time, I said, anyway, he's taught me, and Brian's taught me to go back in the change rooms, and Pleat said, get your kit on and get out there. He said, and do it for you, your family, and this team. And like, he gave me a bit of a telling off and a without actually saying. So I've got my kit on, we've gone back out there, and we've beaten Watford at home. But I just remember that little memory. It's not a great memory, but I remember like because the Oak Road dropped me in the shit. So if any of you were in the Oak Road, I might like to just for 1 second, just a little break. So the memories keep flashing back. And Manchester City away. We're playing Man City away, and like you know the game is fantastic. We don't have to go through the game. But on the way up there, what really inspired some of us players was some of the cards we got of people and like the notes. You know, it was absolutely unbelievable, some of the stuff that we read on there. It was right, made us feel like, you're going about Nathan Jones giving all this. Well, that day, we didn't have to do that because everybody knew that we were playing for the football club. But what inspired us was the notes and letters we got from everybody that we possibly knew. The coach, was John, the coach, there was cards everywhere. And you know, when we were at Man City, we didn't need a team talk. We didn't need anything because we knew that we'd got 8,000 supporters in the stands watching us, and all the best. Which actually, honest to God, folks, that was inspirational for us. And I think that's what got us through the game, and obviously got us the victory we needed.
Brilliant, lovely. Thanks very much.
Well, Kirk, talking about Man City, I remember sitting on the bench. Steenie had just got over a broken metatarsal, so he was playing under duress really. He'd put on about a stone and a half. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
And we took a chance on him playing. But I'm sitting on the bench with David Pleat, and David Pleat is second his head's in his hands. I said, don't worry David, we'll win. We'll win. He said, are you sure? Are you sure? I said, yeah, we'll win. Well, when Raddy scored, I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was great. And I remember being on the pitch. I mean, we seen David Pleat dancing on the pitch. I was on the pitch with Paul Elliott, and we were ringed by Man City supporters who were going to beat us up. We were petrified. And Paul said, I'll protect you, John, don't worry. I said, don't think you will, mate. But then we get on the coach, and they told us, to stay down. And as we're going along, someone runs to get the coach, and a car hits him. So I get off the coach with my little kid. He's broke his leg. So I'm trying to sort him out, and he's spitting at me. He's saying, you beat us. And I thought, this is wrong. And the police are saying, get on the coach, get on the coach. Remember, get on the coach, get on the coach. And I said, I can't leave him. I've got to sort him out. He's in the middle of the road. And so we actually got to the side of the road, and but it was quite scary there, Man City. But what a great week.
And John, obviously David Pleat, one of the managers you worked under, but several managers of different experiences and different managerial techniques. Talk us through your experience with those people.
But the managers, I think one of the greatest thrills was a boot room at Liverpool, 3-3, because you have to be invited into the boot room at Liverpool. And I remember Roy Evans saying to me, we'll see you in the boot room afterwards. And David Coase, who was a coach, he said, I've never been invited. So I said, can he come in? And we go in, and there's Paisley, Fade, and all the grades. And you're sitting having a drink with them. And it was absolutely brilliant. I was really lucky, because I had a limp. So I stood out. So when I ran on the field with a limp, managers remembered, because they go, who's that physio with a limp? But it helped. It helped. But I remember Brian Clough once, Tottenham, the dugouts were like that. And something happened, and he got up, and he went up. And I used to stand in the tunnel, because Kirk could tell you, I was a bit slow getting on the field. So I used to stand.
Hang on, John, hang on. Let me tell the folks, if you were injured and you're the other side of the field and you're seeing him coming on, you didn't bother. You thought, you just run it off. You thought, by the time he gets here, I'm going to again. Sorry, John.
Yeah, so Brian Clough, he got up and he went, whoop, and he hit his head and he looked at me and he said, "Trainer, sort this effing dugout out." I said, "Mr. Clough, it's nothing to do with me." He said, "It effing is now." But Brian Clough, you think a great man like that, he knows you. And I remember 87, cup final at Coventry, we played Forest, and I was collecting the tracksuits and someone come behind me and give me a big hug. And I turned around and there's Brian Clough. It was incredible experience, you know. At Luton we had a tradition of using the treatment room after a game as a pub. So we used to, Pleaty would say, "You better stock up, John," because the managers used to come into the treatment room. So the ice machine became the store for the beer. So if you were getting the Liverpool boys down, you know they like whiskey. So I used to come up and say, "Can I have a couple of bottles of whiskey for the boys?" And then you'd give them one, you know, to take on the coach room. So you met all the greats. I mean, it was so interesting, and just to sit there and listen to them, and it was, you know, a great experience. I was very, very lucky to be in football in that period when players were players. There was no prima donnas. They were just guys that went out of the way to help you. And it was good. Even when I went to Tottenham, I mean, I went there with a lot of top players, England internationals, Irish, Welsh, and even there was a period of time.
There's a story there. It's there is a story there. It's not as good as the Watford one, but can I just touch on a couple of things? John was going on about they turned the physio's room into a bar after a game. Let me tell you folks, during the winter, the changing room was a bar before the game. David Pleat introduced brandy into your coffee before a game.
Yeah.
You know, it's never known, didn't he, John?
Yeah, he did.
He introduced brandy. Have a little sip of brandy and it'll make you feel better before you enact. So you've got to picture this. We're playing Liverpool at home down in little old Kenilworth Road, and you walk in the dressing room and Jake Finley has got a fag on and they this is the truth, before we went out to play, because you could smoke in them days. There's the iconic picture of John in the dugout with his pipe on in one game, and there's another one with Jake Finley in the dugout. I think that might have been Man City. Jake didn't play that game, Tony Gonda did. And Jake's in the dugout, and they've all got fags on. But we used to have brandy in the change room before a game. So yeah, it's we did. I know it's a few secrets, but sometimes I think that secrets that people would like to know. It was good. Hey, listen, we won the league, so it didn't do us no harm, did it?
No, it was good.
But yeah, so the Liverpool game. So in training, when we were wherever we were training, up the Dunstable Downs or Vauxhalls or wherever, when anybody got injured, the keepers got injured, I was the one that messed about. I was the one that wanted to go in goal. As soon as you got down to the training ground and the lads wanted to ping some balls at the goal, I'd go in goal and I'd be diving everywhere. So you got to remember, folks, we didn't have reserve goalkeepers in them days. We had one substitute. And at the Liverpool game, it was Wayne Turner. Am I right? Yeah? It was Wayne Turner, who's not a goalkeeper. So Jake Finley's gone down injured. He's tore a muscle in his ribs, but they needed to examine him a little bit, but they couldn't get his shirt off. So they cut his shirt off, didn't they? His goalkeeping shirt. Well, little old Luton Town didn't have a spare goalkeeping shirt, did we? So we're all stood there. Brian Alton's trying to organise who's going to go up, and he looked at me. I said, "Nobby, do you want me to go?" He said, "Bash, get in goal, you go in goal." So I said, "Okay, but I ain't got a shirt, and we're into a spare one." So Liverpool, God bless them, they sent out one of their shirts. So there's me in Ray Clements' shirt, in front of the cop, in a Liverpool shirt, and I use that picture, I think if you've seen it tonight, I use that picture everywhere I go, where I'm abroad, anywhere. When I talk to the Scousers, I say, you know your Liverpool players? Who is that? They haven't got a frigging clue. Is it David James? I said it doesn't look like that, he's not David James. But it's not Gromler, and they go through all the keepers, and it's a wonderful feeling to say at the end of it, it's me guys, like it's me. So that is what happened at Liverpool that day. We couldn't get Jake's shirt off him, so Clements lent me a spare one. I went in goal. I think there's about 20-25 minutes to go of the first half, something like that. And all of a sudden, I'm in strange territory, because at the training ground, I'm just in the goal, they're firing on, and I'm giving it that, and I'm giving it that. But obviously, the positional play of a goalkeeper is really important. When we're pushing right upfield, the keeper should be further out of his box, you know, towards the penalty spot. But I haven't got all them. I'm thinking I'm still a fullback. So we're right up the other end of the field. I'm on sort of the 6-yard box, and all of a sudden, I think, they play a ball over the top, and Ian Rush has peeled off. Dalglish has gone one way, Rush has gone the other way. Souness has played a ball over the top, and like straight to Ian Rush's path. And like, I'm then thinking, what do I do? I could get that. If I get out of the box, I can get the ball and I can clatter him as well. But I'm not thinking goalkeeper. So I do. I start to go bombing out, and I get to the edge of the box. I think, oh, goal. So all of a sudden I stand, and I make myself big. Well, Rush didn't even take a touch and control it. As it bounced, he just went wallop. And I've got to tell you, it was a fantastic goal. And he has scored past better keepers than me as well. So we go down we give the goal away. We go into half time. I can't remember if it was 1-1 or if it was winning 2-1. We've gone in, we've all sat in the dressing room, and it was obvious that I wasn't quite the biggest for the goal. So David Pleat made the decision, let's put Mel Donnelly in goal. Kirk, you play at the back, we'll fetch Wayne Turner in at the back as well, and we'll tighten it up at the back a little bit. And we went out, and it was, I think you'll all agree, it's one of the most fantastic games of football that you'd see at that level at the time. And Craig Johnson comes and scores the equaliser in the last few minutes. But we got paid probably one of the biggest compliments a club has ever been paid by Bob Paisley. He said, Luton Town came here today and gave us a lesson in football. And it's recorded, it's in the papers that he said that. And we're quite proud of the fact that he held us in such high esteem to think that we could play the sort of football that Liverpool played. Yeah. Great day to be there. I'm sure the supporters enjoyed it, and we certainly did. So that is the story of the shirt.
One thing you've actually forgotten, what did the cop shout to you?
Oh yeah, so I've took the shirt, I put the shirt on, and I've got to be fair, I'm thinking, oh shit, why did I volunteer for this? So got the gloves on, and all of a sudden I turn round, and it's quite intimidating. The old cop going back up there, and you're looking up at it, you think, oh shit. So I looked up, and I've just given it I've given it a little prayer sign. And the cop were absolutely magnificent. They say Stephens for England. Stephens is better than Shun, and there's only one shaking Stephens. And they were fantastic with me. It's on YouTube. You can go on and see it on there. But just another fantastic memory from our time.
Thanks, Kirk. Any other questions from the floor for either Kirk or John?
What happened after you left Luton, Kirk?
Yeah, as I said, I was Coventry born and bred. I was at Coventry as a kid for about 7 years, and they released me, said I wasn't good enough. So I went off into non-league football with the Luton Borough for a few years, came back to Luton. But as everybody would say, I mean, if you're from Luton, you want to play for Luton Town Football Club. You don't want to play for Arsenal, Tottenham or Manchester United. I was from Coventry, and I wanted to play for Coventry City. That was denied me, so I went on, and as I said to you before, I come and played for Luton Town, the happiest 6 years of my life. Then all of a sudden, David Pleat come to me and said, Kirk, I've had some interest from Bobby Gould at Coventry. he'd like to take you up to Coventry City. What do you want to do? He said, the decision is yours. And I said, I've always wanted to go and play for my own town club, boss. You know, I've given great service here, and I really, you know, they got about Nathan Jones, and people say, you know, he's done the wrong thing going there. When you have to make a decision in life, sometimes you think, I've made the wrong decision. I joined Coventry for all the right reasons, because my last chance to play for my own town club, I lived in Coventry, I've got a business in Coventry. I thought I'd give the Luton Town 6 years, fantastic service. I left with happy memories with everybody, and I joined Coventry. Unfortunately, I got injured early on in my career there. I snapped some cruciate ligaments, which eventually finished me. But in hindsight, if I had to choose again, not because I'm sitting here tonight, I would stay with Luton Town Football Club. David Pleat, by the way, offered me a 60% increase in my salary. 60%. David Pleat never give anything away at this football club, because he always used to tell me, good managers look after other people's money, and that's what I do. And every time I went to see him for a rise, you'd got no chance. So he offered me 60%. He said, Kirk, if you stay with the club, this is what you'd be on. But I understand where you are, where you're coming from, and the decision is yours. I went to Coventry, lived my dream, played for the football club, but you know, things didn't turn out quite as well as I wanted them to. But hey, I've got no regrets in life. You know, my lifetime here and at Nuneaton Borough were fantastic. So, yeah.
Did you ever sort of, in that time, did you ever think of sort of becoming a sort of coach or manager? Did that ever cross your mind?
Well, what happened was I went and played. I get a call from David Pleat. I pack up late because of my injuries. I was supposed to go to Australia. It didn't work out. I didn't really want to go. It didn't work out. So I get a call from David Pleat one day. He said, Kirk, you do me a favour? And I said, I will if I can, boss. I always called him boss. Still do today. I will if I can, boss. And he said, listen, there's a good friend of mine, he's running a club in North London, and he needs somebody who sits at the back and help him get out of the non-league into the football league. And I said, yeah, well, who's that? He said, well, it's Barnet FC, and it's a mate of mine called Barry Fry. And I said, you want me to go and have a go around that? He said, he'd love you sitting at the back. I've told him you do a great job for them, and you'll help them get promotion into what is the football league. So I said, oh, I'll go down, boss, and I'll have a word for you. I'll have a look. So I went down to a couple of training sessions down at Dunstable, and I enjoyed it. You know, that's where they trained. So we trained there, and Barry Fry says, right, so now, ladies, I do apologise, but I'm not swearing because I want to swear, because it's the way Barry Fry spoke. So he says, all right, Sam? I said, yeah, Baz, I've enjoyed it. He said, right. He said, I'd like to get you to play for Barnet. You do a great job for us down here. He said, sit at the back, play a bit of football. I said, yeah, okay then, I'll sign. He said, right, I need you to go down to Underhill, down at Barnet, and see Stan Flashman. I said, well, I've heard of Stan Flashman. I've heard of Stan Flashman. I mean, yeah, okay. He said, right, follow me down. So we followed him down to London, parked up, gone in the stadium, a real old stadium, old Barnet FC. You walk under the stand, and at the end of the stand, you come to this wooden door. You know the old little panels of glass? 12 little panels. They're frosted glass, you can't see through. There's a green door, I remember it like. So he says, wait here, so I wait here. So I'm waiting there, and he goes in. He said, I heard him say, all right, Stan, I've got Kirky out there. He's going to sign for us, so if you have a word with him. He said, I will. So Baz has come out, he said, all right, Stan, see him, and I'll see you Tuesday at training. Okay, Baz. So I'm sat there, waiting. In the end, I thought, I better go to him. And his voice says, come in. I've heard of Stan Flashman. So I walked in and I said, all right, Stan, I'm Kirk Stephens. Baz asked me to come and see you. And there's this big, massive boardroom table. And Stan Flashman was only this big. And all I could see was his head above the table. And he looked at me, kept looking at me. He said, sit down. I've come to play football. I mean, I've heard his reputation. So I sat down, and all he did, he kept staring at me, kept looking at me. like that. And not for like 10 seconds or like 30 or 40 seconds. You sit there looking at someone for 40 seconds. Anyway, all of a sudden he's gone, "You've been asking questions about me." Oh, I've just come for a training session. I said, I don't even know you, Stan. So why would I ask questions about it? He said, "You've been asking questions about me." I said, "Stan, I don't even know you, so what would I say?" By now I'm thinking, I'm going to get out of here, and somebody's going to come in. He said, I said, "The only person I've ever spoke to about you was David Pleat." I said to Pleaty, when he asked me to come down here, I said, "I'm not going out to mess about Dave. Has he got any ambition? Does he want to get out of the league? Because if he doesn't, then I'm not going to bother going." And that's all I've said to Dave Pleat. He said, "Like that, son. Like that." Sorry. And this is how it went. And I'm sitting there, Christ, he likes that. Now, I'd already found out what the players were on, you know, what the wages were, and they were on around 120 quid a week, like, and plus a little bit of a win bonus maybe. So I'm thinking, well, if I get that, it's part-time football with little salaries, he'll pay for me expenses, pay for a little flight out to Spain every now and again, I'll be happy with that. So we sat down, and I said, "Right then, Stan," I said, "Baz has asked me to talk to you about my salary." And he all of a sudden, he jumped up off the chair. "You don't talk to me about salary. You don't tell me what you want." It's a little bit of a swan song for me. So brilliant. It's fantastic. But the question was, did I want to go into management?
Yeah.
So when I've left there, Nuneaton asked me to go back there and play a few games. So I went and played 4 or 5 games. They sacked the manager. We were 4th from bottom. I was the most experienced player at the club. They said, "Well, I'll take the training sessions and look after the team." I didn't want to, but reluctantly, I took over the training sessions and looked after the team for a couple of 3 weeks. Well, after 3 weeks and 4 wins on the trot, all of a sudden, you're doing a Mickey Harford. You know, you can't go wrong. Right. So I've won the first 4 games, and everybody's loving it. Everybody's great. I'm a pretty big personality. I'm sort of out there, so everybody loved me being around the club, and they will want me to stay, but I don't want to. I don't want to be a manager. I just love the football. So they persuaded me to stop, and we go on and we win and we win. I get a Manager of the Month award. I'm loving all that. So I managed the club till the end of the season, and from 4th from bottom, we missed out promotion by 2 points to get into the Football League. So fantastic, but I still didn't want to be a manager. So the last game of the season, at home, I seen the chairman. I just said, "I've loved it, fantastic. I want to shake it on and thank you for letting me be the manager." And I walked out, and I didn't go back to Nuneaton for 6 years because I didn't want to get affiliated in an emotional way again. Yeah. So I went off and eventually done a lot of scouting for Dave Pleat. I was scouting for Spurs at the time. You probably know, John, because you were in the training room. I was all over the country scouting for Spurs. And wherever David went, he took me with him. He was at Leicester City first. Fantastic. I went there coaching. He went to Sheffield and scouting. So I've got a great affinity with Dave Pleat. He's like a father figure to me. I love him to bit. The bloke is he was the person for me. I know Harry Aslow, bless him. He got the ball rolling here, but I think David Pleat took this club to a level that unfortunately nosedived because of the recents, but I think with God willing everything's heading back up now, right. And we've got what we call the David Pleat era, and it's a fantastic club, love being associated with it, and I'm glad I'm here to work with you lot.
Oh. Brilliant. Well done.
As bit, even when I was at Tottenham, they were coming up to the house, and I got a couple of them fit for the Littlest Cup final. But amusing story, I was back at Luton's consultant physio, and Glenn Hoddle, who was manager of Chelsea, he phoned up and said, "Would you come up and do a few games? We haven't got a physio." They were playing in the Cup Winners' Cup against Bruges, and playing Leeds on the Saturday. He said, "I've got a few injuries, so can you get the White Hart Lane up to Stamford Bridge early?" So I said, "Yeah, no problem. Peter Shreves will meet you at Southmont Services."
be there at 11:30. So I go to South Thames, sit in the car, watch. No Peter Shreves. So I think, well, better go. So I go to Stamford Bridge, go in, sort the players out, sort the ones out that could play, and then Peter Shreves comes in about 5 to 3. And Peter Shreves is an ex-Cockney taxi driver. So he said to me, where the effing hell were you? I said, I was waiting at South Thames for you. He said, what entrance? I said, whatever entrance, it wasn't the one you were waiting So it was quite funny. He said, you might think it's funny. Do you know what happened to me? I said, no, what happened? He said, there I am, walking around the car park, calling your effing house, and someone comes along and arrests me. I said, what? He said, the police arrested me for being a suspicious person. He said, I've just got out from the police station. Well, by this time, I am crying. And Glenn was looking away and he thinks, what's he up to? What's he up to? But it was quite amusing at the time. So I've done a few games for him, and Matthew Harding, the great Matthew Harding, Chelsea, the chairman, who got children there. He did ask me, would you come to Chelsea? You know, we'd love you to, but I was too old, I think then. Another story, which was, it shows you how determined sometimes you to try and get a player fit. I had a player at Luton, big centre half, got injured, he's one of the own players, and he had a knee injury, and we just couldn't get to the bottom of it. We took him up to L&D, they'd done an arthroscopy, looked in, clear, we've done all his rehab again, he broke down, took him to Cambridge, no good. And when a player's injured, you always know, because he don't shave, his hair's all over the place, he's swearing at you, and it's not nice. So I'm looking, now who's the best knee surgeon? I know, Smiley, Professor Smiley. So I said to Wendy, try and find out where this Professor Smiley lives. And she said, he lives in the Breach of Calais in Scotland. He's a professor of surgery at Dundee University. So straight away, I am on the phone. And I speak to him at breakfast. I said, Professor, I've got a player here I need you to see. He said, laddie, he said, does your doctor know you're ringing me? Of course he does. And I said to Doc Berry, I've got an appointment to see him at the Third Brain Nursing Home in Dundee. So I go up to, it was the championship year, Luton were having their party on the pitch. Me and the player were on the overnight sleeper to Scotland, having breakfast in the bus garage in Dundee at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we go to see this professor of surgery, and he was #1 in the world. He wrote the Black Book on knees, and he was so he looked at the player and he said, I think I know the problem. So I said, that's brilliant. He said, what I'm going to do is write a letter to your doctor to tell him who to go and see. I said, no, you're going to operate on him. He said, I don't operate anymore. He said, I finished. I said, except for him. He said, are you listening to me? I said, yeah, but he needs to be operated on by you. And in the end, he was so fed up with me. He said, bring him up, and I'll do it. And I watched him operate. Now, he's the #1 in the world. And the nursing sister, she said, he won't let you watch him, you know. But he said, I said, can I watch you? He said, yeah, of course. And then the sister said to me, I heard about you. You're not going to, no one's going to stop you getting the operating theatre, are they? No, so we go up there and I watched him operate. And he actually sorted him out, and it was absolutely amazing. Where the arthroscopy, when they push it, the fluid in under pressure, it pushed this flap or cartilage up back into place. But as soon as the pressure come off, it flopped down again. So when they opened him up, they could see it and they were able to repair it. And then he sat down afterwards in the operating theatre, in the ante-room. He said to me, "Laddie, do you want a cup of coffee?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love one." He said, "Sit down." He said, "You know what I've done?" I said, "Yeah, I've watched it." He said, "Get the book." And he had the black book. Now this black book, Smiley's book of the knee, was the #1 bestseller in the world. And he sat there for an hour going through his book with me. And afterwards, I thought, how lucky am I? But Doc Berry had said to me, "You didn't dare phone him up." I said, "I phoned him up at breakfast." He said, "John, you're a bad boy." He said, "But well done."